Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue following the emotional story of CEO James and LyTuDiep, two souls who once lost each other amidst life's upheavals, but in their hearts, the flame of love has never truly died. In the previous episode, as many of you know, after days of desperate searching and what seemed like the end of all hope, James finally received a vital piece of information from Officer Lee, his friend and silent companion who had always watched over him. Lee not only brought a clue about Diep's whereabouts but was also ready to mobilize the force to help in the search. Because he understood that, to James, Diep wasn't just a woman he once loved, she was a part of his heart he could never afford to lose. Meanwhile, Diep continues to quietly journey through desolate paths, pushing herself step by step to return to the man she once walked away from. No one knows exactly where she is. No one is certain whether she still has the strength to go on. But one thing is clear, she has never let go of hope. Halfway through the journey, Diep carries with her the unwavering belief that James is still waiting, still searching, still holding on to the love they shared. So, will fate grant them a chance to reunite? Will this journey end in a tearful embrace, or once again in heartbreaking separation? Stay with me and watch this episode closely to uncover the truth behind those lonely footsteps, the courageous choices made, and above all, a love that has endured the boundaries of time, distance, and pain. After leaving the police station, James drove with almost no sense of reality. Streetlights blurred past both sides of the windshield, casting pale streaks of light across his face, which was tightened with overwhelming tension. His heart was still pounding from what he had just heard from Officer Lee. In that fleeting moment, all other sounds seemed to fade away, only one echoed in his mind: Diep stayed at my place for a while. James couldn't believe it. After months of searching in vain, after so many nights where dreams shattered in the darkness, he was now unexpectedly pulled back into hope by the most fragile thread. The woman he loved, whom he thought had vanished into the vast world, had, in truth, once been so close. Just a floor away, just one question away, just one conversation. And yet, she had left, silently, without a word. Not a single message. Not a trace. As if she had never been there. Caught between joy and sorrow, James could hardly breathe. He was relieved to know that Diep was still alive, still somewhere in this world. But at the same time, a painful question gripped his heart: why hadn't she contacted him? Was she angry at him? Had she given up on him? Or, had something happened that forced her into silence? James had no answers. And perhaps, he no longer wanted to speculate. Right now, the only thing that mattered was finding Diep, as soon as possible. He believed she was on her way back. He couldn't explain it, but the feeling was undeniable, like an invisible thread still connected them. He believed that somewhere out there, Diep was thinking of him too, walking through dust-covered roads with a fragile hope that he was still waiting. That night, James couldn't sleep. He returned to the old house, the one that once held their memories, like a drifter clinging to his last bit of hope. The house hadn't been visited in a long time, dust covered the window frames, and the dim yellow light cast shadows across the photo frames on the wall. He sat silently on the familiar chair, his eyes fixed on the front door, as if one small sound would make him spring up, rush out, and hold her in his arms through tears. But all night long, no one returned. Dawn slipped through the cracks of the shutters, illuminating a weary face after a sleepless night. James stood up and stepped onto the porch. He took a deep breath, gazed into the quiet yard, and whispered, "If you don't come, then I'll go find you." Without hesitation, James pulled out his phone and called Trang, his longtime assistant at work. His voice was calm yet resolute, with no trace of doubt. "Trang, I need you to temporarily take over all company affairs. Also, please check on my mother." She's unwell, and I can't be at peace unless someone I trust is with her." Trang was surprised at first, but when she heard Diep's name, she fell silent. She knew James had waited for this moment far too long. And she also knew, no matter how much he tried, he could never truly focus on the company when his heart had already set out on this journey. She nodded on the other end of the line and softly replied, "Don't worry. I'll take care of everything." There was nothing left to hold him back, no contracts waiting to be signed, no back-to-back meetings, no strategic market expansions. James, the man once engulfed in the battlefield of business, was now just a man on a mission to find the other half of his soul. He gently closed the door of the old house, took one last look, then walked to his car. On the passenger seat lay a hastily folded map, with circled locations and handwritten notes, places where Diep might be found. The journey had begun. And this time, James wasn't seeking success, wasn't chasing obligations or duty, he was searching for one thing only: love. The car rolled away from the old house, carrying James and the growing longing that swelled within his heart. He wasn't driving with the urgency of a businessman rushing to a meeting, but like a man racing against fate, afraid that if he slowed down even a little, he would forever lose the woman he loved. On the passenger seat, beside the map and a few personal items, were flyers with Diep's face printed on them, the gentle face whose every feature he had memorized by heart, now staring back at him from white paper under the words, "If you have seen her, please contact me immediately." Each flyer was a silent plea. A fragile spark of hope cast into a sea of strangers. James stopped at every town, every main street, every lonely intersection. He didn't skip a single spot along the road from Officer Lee's home. Every roadside diner, every rundown gas station, every small convenience store, and even winding alleyways, he stepped into them all, putting up flyers, asking questions, leaving his number. Some places, he lingered only a few minutes. In others, he stayed longer, quietly watching unfamiliar eyes as they read the flyer in their hands. Some nodded with sympathy, some smiled faintly, and others said nothing, but James still offered thanks, still bowed his head, because he knew, sometimes, a single glance at the right moment, a memory stirred unexpectedly, could be the key that brings him closer to Diep. Step by step, flyer by flyer, he posted them on public bulletin boards, utility poles, fences, even doorways of roadside homes. He ignored the curious stares. He paid no mind to the fatigue weighing on his legs. Because in his heart, only one belief burned bright: Diep is still out there, still on her way back. And perhaps, just perhaps, she had walked through these very places too. Sometimes, as the last rays of sunset painted the dusty red road in gold, he would pause and wonder, "Are you looking at the same sky right now, Diep? Are you thinking of me too?" And then, he would keep going. Carrying with him Diep's photo, along with memories and words left unsaid. In every breath, in every step, in every gentle whisper of her name as he asked passers-by along the way, James carried with him the greatest hope of his life. That if he just keeps walking this road, he will find her. As for Diep, after being mugged in the early days of leaving Officer Lee's home, she had become more cautious than ever. Main roads and crowded places, once considered safe, now posed threats. She understood clearly that being alone on an uncharted journey meant that even the smallest mistake could cost her life. So, Diep chose narrow forest trails, avoiding highways, hiding beneath thick canopies where no one would notice. At night, she built makeshift tents out of tarp or simply slung a raincoat over dry branches, curling up beneath a thin blanket she had brought with her. Her food was nothing more than leftover rations, wild fruits from the forest, and clear water from mountain springs. Yet she never complained. She accepted everything, because as long as she was alive, as long as there was a chance to return to James, she would endure any hardship. But disaster struck on a quiet afternoon. While foraging for fruit deep in the woods, Diep failed to notice a patch of rustling leaves ahead. In a blink, a venomous snake sprang from the underbrush and sank its fangs into her left ankle before slithering away, leaving behind a fiery sting that surged through her body like wildfire. Panic hit her. Her ankle swelled rapidly, the skin turning a sickly purple. She recognized the species. Its venom spread fast and could cause necrosis if untreated. But instead of screaming or panicking, Diep forced herself into a cold calm. Having grown up in the highlands, she'd learned about medicinal plants and had once heard forest workers talk about first aid for snake bites. Now, all that knowledge became her last lifeline. Dragging herself step by step toward the stream where she had rested earlier, she clenched her teeth and tied leaves tightly around the wound to slow the poison. Upon reaching the stream, she collapsed onto the cold earth, washed the wound quickly, and used her small knife to make a shallow incision to release the venom, a painful, numbing act she had no choice but to endure. Then, she began to search for healing herbs, her only hope now. Crawling between tall grass and a haze of dizziness, Diep scoured the ground in desperation. Nearly 30 minutes later, her eyes lit up as she spotted a clump of silver-green leaves, exactly the plant she had learned to recognize for detoxification. There was no time to brew or prepare them. Diep immediately chewed the leaves into a paste, applied them to the wound, and continued chewing to swallow, despite the bitter taste that numbed her throat. She leaned over the stream, drinking water to help the herbs absorb faster, whispering to herself, "Hold on. I can't give up yet. James is still waiting." But the venom had already seeped into her bloodstream. Her body grew heavier, vision blurred, heart racing uncontrollably. She had no more strength to go on. Right at the edge of the forest, beside the icy stream, she set up another makeshift shelter, even more fragile than the nights before, and tried to spark a fire with a few dry twigs. The flickering flame mirrored her life now, faint, fragile, nearly extinguished. After pouring out the last of her strength in a silent prayer, Diep drifted into unconsciousness. Her body, now just a trembling shell, curled beside the dying fire like a leaf caught in a storm. The fever came quickly and violently. Her breathing turned shallow, her lips parched, cheeks burning with the onset of high fever as the snake's venom flared into full force. The real world faded, but in that half-conscious dream, a different world appeared, gentle, warm, and filled with love. Diep saw herself standing in a sunlit garden, surrounded by green trees and chirping birds. In the distance stood a small wooden house, the one she had dreamed of sharing with James. In that moment, he was standing right in front of her, eyes warm as they had been the very first day they met. No blame, no anger, only tenderness in his gaze and open arms. She ran into him, clung tightly as if letting go would make him disappear, just like the countless times she'd dreamed of him before. But this time, James didn't fade. He held her close, gently soothing her back, whispering, "I'm here now. I found you, Diep." And she broke into tears. All the grief, the fear, the days of wandering lost and alone, poured out in sobs she couldn't control. She couldn't speak, could only hold him and cry, as though every pain was being washed away with each tear. James said nothing, just held her tightly. His hand ran through her tangled hair, as if drying invisible tears, as if erasing the haunting memories etched in her heart. In that dream, everything was peaceful. No dark forests, no venomous snakes, no lurking danger, just the two of them, together, whole and safe. But outside the dream, night was truly falling on the jungle. The air grew colder. Harsh winds whipped through the trees, causing the fire beside Diep to flicker and fade. Her body burned with fever. Her pulse raced chaotically, cold sweat forming on her brow, lips pale. The venom continued its silent assault, not giving her any time. Yet within that fragile border between life and a dream of love, Diep still smiled faintly in delirium, her hands curling slightly, as if holding someone invisible. Because deep in her soul, her heart still chose to love, to live, and to wait for James. Even after first aid, even after chewing and applying the herbal remedy, the venom continued to course through her veins, like waves silently crashing against her body. The pain was no longer just in the wound, it spread everywhere, searing and stabbing like 100 blades cutting deep into her flesh. Sweat drenched her skin, icy cold. Her body trembled violently, breathing ragged and labored, as if each breath was a battle with death itself. The small fire flickered faintly in the darkness. Forest winds howled. The world fell silent, save for her frantic heartbeat and the faint moans of pain escaping her lips. In that moment, when there was no more strength to resist, no one left to hold on to, Diep gently placed her trembling hands together before the dimming fire, her pale lips whispering a prayer. She looked up at the pitch-black sky above the treetops, her voice barely audible, yet carrying her soul in every word. "Dear God, if you can hear me, please help me through this. I do not ask for riches, nor everlasting safety. I only ask for one thing, let me live. Let me have the strength to return to the one I love. Please don't let James suffer another loss. Please watch over me, even if it's just the smallest chance." Tears fell silently onto her trembling hands. She had never felt so weak. But on the razor-thin edge between life and death, she clung to faith, to love, and to a miracle she still quietly believed would come. So, will Diep be able to survive this brutal ordeal? Will her knowledge of healing herbs, her fervent prayers, and her desperate longing to return to the man she loves, be enough to help her fight off the venom that eats away at her body, second by second? And what about James, with all his love and unyielding determination? Will he find her in time? Perhaps, his eyes will catch sight of a flickering flame at the edge of the forest. Perhaps, his steps will lead him straight to the place where she lies, clinging to her final hope for a miracle. Or, will fate test their love once more, by placing life and death between them? All of it remains a mystery. Stay tuned for the next episode, where their journey toward reunion reaches a moment of life and death. Don't look away, because sometimes, a single moment of delay can mean forever.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đã mang đến cho mọi người phần tiếp theo của câu chuyện Lý Tử Diệp và CEO James. Thì mọi người cũng có thể thấy là trên con đường tình yêu mà họ tìm về với nhau thì nó gặp rất là nhiều trắc trở. Như lần này thì Diệp đã bị rắn cắn. Thì mọi người cũng có thể biết là trên con đường Diệp đi thì do lần trước cô ngủ ở ngoài chỗ đường phố thì bị những kẻ xấu nhắm đến và cướp giật, đó nên là cô đã rất là sợ và cô đã chuyển hướng của mình sang cái khu vực ngoại ô, sang khu dân cư. Tại vì cô nghĩ là với cái kỹ năng mà cô đi rừng nhiều như thế thì cô có thể sống tốt hơn ở cái chỗ khu vắng vẻ như vậy. Nhưng thật là không may khi Diệp bị rắn cắn. Nhưng mà với kỹ năng thì cô cũng đã sơ cứu và cô cũng đã nhai và đắp thuốc rồi. Thì liệu Diệp có phép màu để vượt qua cái sự đau đớn về rắn cắn lần này và James có kịp thời tới để cứu cô hay không? Thì mời mọi người theo dõi tiếp vào tập sau nhé mọi người.